as she makes her way forward, I'll just tell you, I asked her back, I guess it was March or April, to share her story, because I kept seeing, her post things on Facebook, and I knew a little bit of kind of what had happened, but not the whole story. And I just kept seeing her get this great response from people on Facebook. And I was just like, you need to share that. And I said, you can come to my church and share it, because that means that's a week that I don't have to say anything. Right? And everybody's happy about that. But anyway, so I appreciate y'all being here, and if you happen to need some water, there's a bottle right there. So.
Hey everybody. Hi. I'm not going to use that microphone because it's going to be awkward if I do. I'm Lacey. I'm most definitely an addict, and I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about how, long story short, I was on drugs, went to jail for a long time, got out, and God saved me. So, basically, thank you for letting me come here. Some of you have known my entire life, some of you I don't know, and some of you were with me through the bad, and stuck with me. But I'm going to start off, I'm going to tell you some good things first, and then we'll go for bad, then we'll go back to good. Because I am married now. I have 2 kids, 2 rotten girls. I am married to my high school sweetheart in the back row. I have a family that trusts me now, a family that loves me now, or they love me then, but I have their trust again. It took a long time to get back, because I killed that trust. I killed it. Let me say, growing up, I grew up in a very Christian home. Jesus everywhere. Jesus. I probably have a tattoo of Jesus on my brain because it was embedded into my head from day one. Went to a private Christian school. Granddaddy was a preacher. I literally had Jesus everywhere I looked, and I didn't like being told what to do. I didn't like being forced, something forced on me. I have a big problem with authority, evidently, which is better now, but back then it was not very good. I was a horrible child. Anyway, so, we grew up, remember Christian school, I was normal, so to speak. I mean, like I played soccer, I did all the normal kid stuff, went to church every time the doors were open. And then I got into like middle school, and then I just became a weirdo. Like, I don't really know what happened. But I started liking all the goth stuff and the bad music and the evil, anything to basically make my parents mad. Pretty much my goal was to make my mom and dad mad. Sorry, mom and dad. It worked a lot. But so I said I had a problem with authority. Well, I can't tell you how many times my dad said the words, "You deliberately disobeyed me," in my life, like Mufasa's voice in the background. He forbid me to get a mohawk, and I went and shaved my head the next day. He forbid me to have boys in my room, and I had my now husband sneaking in my room every day for weeks, and I was like a permanent stage of grounded. Pretty much. I'm so sorry, Mom and Dad, I really was an awful child. Well, I got into high school, and high school kids, they just do what everybody else is doing, and they want to fit in, and so of course I'd start smoking pot and trying to be cool, and I really didn't do anything like bad drug-wise in high school until my grandmother died right before I graduated. She died, and then I got, that was the beginning of the end. That was what started it all. Let me backtrack a little bit. Okay, so I got saved when I was 9. Okay, so I got saved when I was 9, got baptized by my dad with my brother. And I'm going to tell y'all about the first time that I believed that God was real, 100% in my life. Like, without a shadow of a doubt, I just knew God was real. I used to have, in the middle of the night, I'd wake up, and you're going to think this sounds like sleep paralysis or something, but I used to wake up in the middle of the night, and I would be being held down, couldn't scream, couldn't breathe, couldn't, nothing, just being held down, couldn't, and it was right after I got saved is when it started, and it still happens sometimes, but it got to a point, like, I'd run into my mom and dad's room, I'd be crying, Dad would pray, I'd go back to bed or whatever. Well, it got to the point where he was like, try to see if you can get out the word God or Jesus when this is happening. And it's like the most terrifying experience in the world, not being able to move and speak and not being able to scream. And somehow I got the word, when it happened again, I got the word God out. Instant. Stopped. Instant stopped. And it still happens to this day, just not very often, but it always seems to happen when I'm trying to get closer to God, or when I'm doing better, in my relationship, like going to church more, or start doing a devotional every day and all that stuff, then it starts happening. But I know now how to make it stop, so. And I just scream at Satan, tell him to get out of my house in the name of Jesus, and it works. Yes. So that's one reason I know, that was the first time, but it's also one reason I will always believe God is real. And also, side note, weird thing happened. Another reason how I know God is real and know spiritual warfare is real is because I used to always have, like in high school, I used to always have like a Bible in my trunk because I was at church all the time. I always just had one with me. And one of my friends had a satanic Bible. And I was like, ooh, I want to look at that. I want to see what it says. Because you're curious. I'm not trying to go for Satan or anything, but you want to see what it says. It's weird, it's new, it's interesting. So I borrowed it from him. Didn't even have a chance to read it. And it was in my car, it's crazy, in my car with that regular Bible. And 5 days I got in 4 wrecks. The 5 days that Bible was in my car with my other Bible. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, it's real. I was like, as soon as I took that Bible out, it wrecked for years. And all the wrecks weren't even my fault. They were someone else's swerving into me or whatever. So there's another way I know God's real. But anyway, so back to high school. Nana died. I went, just depression, awful. My best friend in the world died. I was devastated. And I was about to turn 18. I had a few more months left of high school. And I was like, I'm 18. I can do what I want because I'm a grown-up, because I'm 18. And I was not a very smart 18-year-old. So I moved in with one of my friends. I had a few months left of high school. I started doing real drugs. I'm not going to be very specific because there's little ones in here, but let's just say they were the harder kind. And then I ended up having to go to rehab the month before I graduated high school for the first time. So I graduated rehab before I graduated high school. So there's that. And then after that, I started dating a guy who was already on drugs, and I just didn't care at that point. So I was on them too, and then the high wasn't good enough anymore. So I started using needles to get high, and that lasted a few years, a couple years something, and then I decided I needed money because I was broke, and of course Mom and Dad aren't going to help me, buy drugs. They'll buy me food, buy me, stuff, necessities. If I need toothpaste, they'd buy it for me, but they weren't about to give me a $20 bill, because they knew where it would go. But I decided to steal my parents and my pappy, because my mom had power of attorney over him because he was crazy. Their debit cards, or the credit cards, and I used them. And I stole one of my mom and dad's checkbooks, and I used all the checks. And I ended up getting 16 felony forgeries in a week and a half. So, but anyway, so basically, obviously I used all the money that, that I'd stolen, and I was like, I need more money. So, because I've already used it all on drugs. So I went and I broke into my mom and dad's house when they weren't there, and ended up slitting my wrist when I busted my window at my house to get in my old bedroom, almost down to the bone, and to get stitches and stuff. But I had stole my brother's Xbox and stole some more jewelry and stuff, whatever. I ended up stealing altogether, I can't tell you how much money I stole, but I stole everything they had, every dime. Like, they had to press charges or they would have had no money, like, even if they didn't want to. I stole all the jewelry, all my dead Nana, my grandma's jewelry, sold it. Anything I could get my hands on, stole everything valuable, sentimental, and stole it. Sold it for drugs. Well, I ended up living in my drug dealer's backyard in a tent because, you know, I'm homeless. Now I'm on the run because I have warrants out for the checkbooks and the, you know, money. And me and my boyfriend at the time decided we're going to go sell this car of his that was in his family's, his granddaddy's name. We're going to go sell it for drugs because we need money. And then ended up getting pulled over in the stolen car because it was reported stolen, and guns drawn, like 6 cop cars, you know, screaming at us and being thrown, get ripped out of the car, thrown on the concrete. I'm 100 pounds soaking wet, okay, like half of me. Half of me right now because I was so strung out. And then I went to jail for the first time, and I was going to tell y'all a little bit about jail too, because it sucks. And I just want to reiterate the fact of how bad it is, so maybe you guys don't want to go back. But a strip search, as soon as you get in there, you get butt naked in front of complete strangers. And you have to squat and cough, like that's a real thing, it's not just on TV. You have to, you know, sit in a cell for a day, maybe days, with no, maybe a blanket. Maybe not. You got your socks and your shirt and your pants, whatever you wore in there, and you get to lay on the concrete for days before they'll send you back to general population. And then you're lucky when you get back there if you get a bed, a mat to sleep on. You might have to sleep on the concrete, you know, your entire stay there. I've seen women bash other women's heads into concrete, blood, brain go everywhere. I have seen women bawling their eyes out because the guilt hits them when they get sober. All the guilt comes and hits you in the face like a ton of bricks, and they can't see their children. Can you imagine not seeing your child because of something you did, you know? Seeing them just lose it. Seeing women puking their brains out because they're withdrawing from dope and they can't, and they won't help you when you're in there. They will not give you medicine to make you feel better just because you're sick. I mean, you deserve to be sick. You're in there for a reason. It is definitely a punishment. But I played it smart when I got there. I found the biggest, meanest women in there, and I was like, hey, be my friend. Like, you know. So I didn't get messed with while I was in there because I was smart when I went there. But I've witnessed lots of stuff that I wish nobody should ever have to witness in jail. But also you have to shower and use the toilet naked. Not even use the toilet naked, but shower naked and use the toilet in front of everybody. You don't get to just go to the bathroom, you know, privacy. There's none of that. But anyway, so I went to jail the first time, and I got put in a program called drug court where they do therapy, intense therapy for like a couple of months in jail, and they send you to a halfway house. You know, and if you're good, you do what you're supposed to do, then you can stay in the halfway house and, you know, your life will be gradually better. Well, I decided I didn't want to do that. I wanted to get high. So I lasted like 3 days or something the first time I went to a halfway house, and left, ran away and got high, and then went back to jail, and they were like, okay, we'll give you one more chance to prove that you want to be better. And of course I'm like, yeah, I do. I'm sober now. Yeah, I do want to be better. Well, they sent me out to another halfway house a few months later. I lasted like a week and a half this time. And I was like, nope, I want to get high. I want to get high, so I left, and then I was on the run, and I was homeless, sleeping at Springbrook Park in Alcoa for months. Like, there's a little fountain. There's one fountain in the back when you walk the trails, and there's a wooded area above it, and it's flat when you walk up into it. And I slept there without a sleeping bag, without a tent, without anything for months. Sometimes when it would rain, I'd have my friend who lived a couple blocks down the road, and I'd sleep in his garage with, you know, the nasty bugs and stuff all over the floor. But I didn't care because I was getting high. I could get high anytime I wanted. Didn't have any, you know, anybody telling me no. I didn't think life was that bad because you're so messed up. You have no idea how bad your life really is. So anyway, I was going to tell you that, you know, God obviously saved my life, and I'm not on drugs and I'm not, bad off anymore, but there's this other instance where he saved my life and I didn't know it until way after the fact that he had saved my life. It was winter and I was homeless in the park and it was below freezing. This is like 7, 8 years ago or something, whatever, maybe 7 years ago or something, but it was ice and snow and stuff all over the ground. And I was freezing. And so, physically can't stop shaking. Again, like a 100-pound little tiny person, little tiny human, I didn't have anything to keep me warm like I do now. So I decided I was gonna run, try to get my body temperature up to where I could just maybe fall asleep or whatever. And so I did that and I went and laid back down in my little spot and of course still shaking, it didn't matter, so cold. And I remember giving in for the first time and begging God, just don't let me die here. Don't let me freeze to death. Because I know I would have. Like, it was seriously below freezing and I thought I was going to die anyway. But it was like shortly after that, later that night, I'm in and out, asleep. I don't know if I'm passing out. I don't really know exactly what was happening, but I hear, Lacey, come on, we gotta get you warm. And I had another homeless friend that I hadn't seen in a while who had a car, just randomly came and got me and was like, hey, you need to come get in the car, get warm, I'll take you to get food. It's like, I asked God not to let me die. And he sent my friend to go get me and save me. Of course, I'm still on drugs and I don't care. It's just a coincidence, whatever that, that God actually helped me, But, so shortly after that, it's not as cold outside. I'm still sleeping outside. And I'm going to tell you my lowest moment. And if I look like I'm going to cry, I probably am, but I'm fine. But, sorry Mom, she's going to cry the whole time. Not to point it out or anything, but, okay, so I am a needle junkie. I am shooting up dope, killing myself. And at Springbrook, there's that one little tiny bridge, little stone bridge in the middle of the park. Well, when you're under that bridge, nobody around can see you unless they are right under there with you. Like, you physically can't see anybody underneath it. So I would go there, middle of the day, school's in session, there's no, people walking around. And I would do my drugs there sometimes when there wasn't anybody there. And I had gotten some, and I had a shoelace wrapped around my arm as a tourniquet, and I had my needle in my hand. And I look up for a split second, and there was a little boy, probably like 6, 7 years old, never done drugs in front of children, never had been that low before, But I looked up, and I looked back down in my arm, and I did it. And then I looked back up, it couldn't have been 10 seconds later, and there was no boy. There was no little boy to be found or seen. I even walked up around, looked, there was nobody there. And I remember I had never felt such guilt in my life. I had robbed my parents blind. I had lost all of my friends. I had screwed over people, robbed all kinds of people, sold myself for drugs. I had done just about everything bad you could possibly do for drugs, guns at my head, the whole 9 yards. And I had never felt such guilt in my life, except for shooting up in front of that little boy. And to this day, I honestly don't know if he was even real, if God just put that image in my head to make me get to my lowest point. But I remember I bawled my eyes out and bawled and bawled and bawled, and I begged God to just let me die. Just let me die. I had no one, I hadn't spoken or seen my family in months, I'd screwed every relationship I'd ever had. I had nobody but my drug dealer, and they don't care about you. So please, God, just let me die. And I went to sleep that night. The next morning, I got arrested. Somebody saw me and called the cops on me and knew I had warrants, and I got arrested and went to jail. It saved my life. God saved my life, and I will never think anything else. I begged God to kill me, and He didn't. He let me live. So, anyway, so I go back to jail, And obviously I got kicked out of that drug court program. That's not happening. So I went to court a couple weeks after I got there, and I was like, let me just flatten my time. Let me just do my time. I don't want probation. I don't want a program. I just want you to send me to prison or whatever. And the judge was like, all right, whatever. So I got shipped off to prison in Johnson City. It's a work camp prison. So you had to work every day, and it took time off your sentence. Made my stay a little shorter. And prison, I'm not going to say it's great by any means, but it's it's different than Blount County. Blount County is probably one of the worst places you'll ever go in your life. You're shaking your heads, I know, but I was there for a little while, and then I ended up going up for parole because I hadn't gotten in trouble while I was in jail, and I'd done I think it's 30% of my time. You can go up for parole, and they can let you out, and you'd be on parole for however the rest of long of your sentence. Well, they told me I had parole coming up, and I just knew I couldn't do it. And so I told them I didn't want it. I told them I didn't want parole. I could have been free, been locked up for months and months, and I told them I didn't want it because I wasn't ready and I was going to get high, and if that's not God, I don't know what is. So, anyway, I ended up staying, finishing my sentence out. Clean, not a clean record, but clean start when I got out. And then I slowly but surely gained my family and my friends and some new friends and trust back. And I would never have been able to do any of it without God. There's no doubt in my mind. He's the reason that I'm okay. He's the reason that I'm alive, and that my dad and mom are proud of me now, and I don't, nobody has to pray for me every day because they're so worried I'm going to die in a ditch somewhere, But I've messed up a few times. I've, had slip-ups. I'm not perfect, but I no longer have a relationship with addiction any longer. And it's all because God saved me. More than once. But anyways, that's it. But yeah, thank you guys for letting me share.
Amen. What a great story. And God is a God of multiple chances, right? Thankfully, we don't just mess up one time. And He says, thankfully it's not, you mess up once and He says, that's it. Even after you become a believer, we still struggle with sin, don't we? And God is faithful and just to forgive us our sins, right? And He always is there for us to fall back on. And I couldn't help but think about, Lacey's telling her story that, God works in ways when you don't even realize it. There might be something that you're going through right now, and God's doing something in the background. And I use the example of this church all the time. Just the fact that everybody's here, all right, is an example of that. What brought you here to this place? And you didn't have any idea that you were going to be here on this day in this place when we started our church. You didn't have any idea, but God did, right? So God has a way of doing those things. I just want to encourage you to, no matter what we face, no matter what we go through, what we deal with, struggles, divisions, hate, whatever things that are pressing upon us, just to remember that you can go to the Lord anytime. There's not any one thing that you can do that's so bad where He says, oh, I'm sorry, you just messed up. That's not the way God is. God's always available 24/7, no matter where you are in your life, whether it be under a bridge or whether it be sitting in a church pew. We've got to stop thinking that, I have to get my life in a certain order before I can go to the Lord. No, He wants you to go now. Okay? Go now. So, Lacey, I appreciate that. And my prayer is that God just blesses you, strengthens you, and uses you in different ways as you continue this journey. And I know He will. I absolutely know that He